Hey all, and welcome back to a new video of two games that I played recently. One at 98% accuracy and one where I played at 94% accuracy. So we're getting into some very high quality games. And we're going to start with the one where I played at 94. Stick around for 98. That's going to be a cool game. There'll be timestamps in the description and everything, of course. And let's get into it. So d4. My opponent decides to go with d5. Of course, bishop f4. Knight f6. Always normal as height when they do this. Is very, very normal. Everything's been played before a million times. E3, my opponent decides to go for c5. When they go for c5 in these London structures, I always like to play c3 because just solidify like this. I never commit my c pawn before they move their c pawn unless they waste time with like a6 or something. And I think this is a good plan. My opponent goes knight c6, knight d2, all normal stuff. Getting to a London structure, bishop f5, and I go knight gf3. All's been played before a million times, and nothing fancy is going on. My opponent decides to go cd, which is a little bit of a weird move, because normally you're not really supposed to do this. Normally you're supposed to go like e6, and then we're just going to keep the tension with the c and d pawns for like a long time. But my opponent decides to instead do this, kind of interesting, kind of weird, and I kind of spent a little bit of time here because I was trying to focus on this game because I had a couple of bad losses earlier, so I was trying to really focus, and I spent a little bit of time, and I eventually ended up playing ed, which I thought was best at the time. It's okay. Low level engine says it's best. Actually, the higher level engine at depth 20, I have no idea what the depth of this game review is, but at depth 20 the computer says knight d4 is even better. And this is very interesting because at first glance, I thought, okay, I'm giving him... Wait, no, not that line, not that line. Okay, I mean, like, I'm hitting the bishop. He has to drop back his bishop. And I didn't really think that this position was that good. But I mean, maybe knight d4. Maybe knight d4 is better. And, like, these are probably both equal, but ed4 seems natural. And, I mean, like, e6 to develop the bishop. I don't know, this position didn't look that good to me. I guess here I get like immediate pressure after like bishop here, knight d7, and like, oh man, the computer's even saying g4 here. I mean, okay, that's a little hard to see, but yeah, that's why that's why that's good. But instead, ed is completely natural, completely normal stuff. Normally you're supposed to take with the e pawn in London, and you're supposed to try and get a knight up to here, open up the light squared bishop, and some lines at this square, or this square. Not that square right now because of bishop, but this is normally what you're supposed to do. My opponent decides to go e6. We're back into the book moves territory, and I think a little bit for a while here, and I play this with bishop e2. I just want to develop my bishop, and I don't really want to do anything very spicy with it. I want to develop my bishop castle, and like, I don't know, maybe I could have gone for bishop b5. But I thought after like a6, what am I doing there? I don't really want to trade this way because, I mean, like, at the very least, like queen b6 stuff, and it doesn't look like the type of position that I kind of want to mess with. So I just didn't go for this, and my opponent goes bishop d6. I quickly go bishop g3, completely reasonable move. I don't want to do anything special about that. Basically, I'm just saying that if he takes my bishop, then I will take back with the h-pawn, opening up my rook. My opponent goes in the center with the knight, very aggressive stuff. And I think here for a while again, I'm kind of thinking on all of my moves, and I go knight e4 after some thought. Just arguing that if he's going to take with the pawn, I thought I was like doing quite well after knight d2, because I have like knight c4 ideas, and I can like put my knight on e3 in some lines, and I'm probably doing quite well there. If he like keeps going, first of all, that's just a free pawn. He might think that, oh, you're doubling my pawns, and I have a bad pawn structure. But in reality, this position is probably just like winning for white. And I didn't really care to really think about that too much. And after bishop takes e4, which is what he played in the game, I mean, this is never really that important. Like, is he really going to trade off his bishop here for my knight? I don't think so. So I played bishop d3, basically offering a bishop trade. I mean, if he trades, I get my queen in the center, and I'm doing quite well. I've got targets over here. I might have like something like this in the future. And the tension between the bishops is all very nice. Instead, bishop g6. I don't want to take to open up his rook. That would be bad and stupid. I don't know why I would do that. Actually, it's the top engine move from the computer. Actually really confusing. I don't know why that's the top engine line. and it just wants me to castle into this, and like after it takes, I'm supposed to take with the F pawn. This is the computer's idea. So take with the F pawn, open up this, and like after like queen e7 or something, maybe long castle ideas, I just go like queen e2 or queen d3. Okay, ooh, rook f2 is an interesting idea. Maybe like this or like this, something like that. That's interesting. Instead, after bishop d6, I don't trade. I decided to make another waiting move because I kind of wanted to keep the tension of everything for a while. I didn't want to castle just yet, so I made like the last improving move I could, which I thought was rook c1. I might play c4 in the future, like b3 c4 stuff in the future, and my rook is normally pretty good on the c file. So I thought this was the last improving move I could play, and then I'm probably just going to castle. Opponent guys go rook c8, mirror me. I castle because I didn't really see much else I could do. The computer is still screaming for bishop g6, but really, opponent castles as well. And now I probably should have played bishop g6. Probably should have played bishop g6 and went for this line and like traded off the bishop pair for both of us. And this is what the computer wants. I wasn't really looking at this, but bishop g6 now actually makes a lot of sense to me. And here I would probably play like, I don't know, even like h4 or something. Like h4, g3, maybe knight back, maybe g3 immediately to try and play like knight h4 and like get my rooks over here, get my queen over here if I can draw arrows, which I absolutely can't. Instead, after short castles, I don't do that, and I just kind of autopilot the move rook e1. I mean, what can be more natural than rook e1? The semi-open file. I mean, my rook's normally pretty good there. Maybe I'll put a knight on e5, and my position's probably all right. He decides to take my dark sword bishop. Take back with the h pawn. My opponent puts his queen in the center, and this is kind of a weird move. I didn't really get this move because the queen doesn't really have any like targets here. His idea is obviously to play like e5, but I mean that square is covered, and like all the squares that the queen is going for, the queen has no prospects. What I could have done here, I could have again played bishop g6, but I'm not going to do that. So instead I just went for the next best thing, and I played knight e5, and I'm like, okay, if you take my knight, I'm going to put my rook in the center probably. And I mean, like, this is a big weakness. Like, if you want to do that, by all means, I'll go here, I'll like put pressure on this pawn, and I'm probably just better. And that's why my opponent didn't really take, and instead took my bishop. I decided to take back with the queen. I don't want to bring my knight out of the center. Some reason is the best move, and like rerouting like here or something. That's kind of crazy. I wasn't looking at that, so queen takes, and my opponent decides to play f6. And now, I mean, like, my position is really good, right? Because after the knight trade, this pawn is always a weakness in like all endgames. If he wants to push it, by all means, like I want him. I kind of want him to push it because then he has a hanging pawn structure at the very least, and the hanging pawns basically it's when it's like these two pawns versus two connected pawns in the center, or like anywhere. That's the hanging pawn structure. He would get a hanging pawn structure, and that's normally pretty good for the side fighting the hanging pawn structure. So I was always a little like interested in that type of line, but instead I played this move queen e3. First, putting pressure on this and preventing this move because, of course, free pawn. And rook e8. Okay, and I decided to play f4 and like completely prevent that move. Like completely prevent that move. It has the computer's blessing, like most of the moves in this game, and it's kind of a wild move. It looks pretty like weakening. Like these pawns are like always weak in the end game, but this looks fine. Opponent goes rook here. I play b3. This kind of helps me, I thought, because now I'm like ready to play c4. I thought that like was good for me. Rook a6. I go rook c2. Defending the pawn, I might go here. I might triple up on this file. A lot of things. This is an idea at some point, which is a little cool. Queen there. And I go c4. I mean, like, this is like one of my ideas. Actually, the move here that's really good for white is this move g4. And that's insane. I think the idea is that I might want to play like g5 or like f5 in some lines, and like just start pounding him on the center. Actually, you know what? Probably it's probably like let's say, I don't know, I don't want to like this move, like maybe even like g5 and like try to go for something like this and like with this hole and maybe I'm like using my double pawns to like get something here. Might sack my pawn with like this move. And some you probably wouldn't take, nah, it's a bad idea to sack the pawn, but I mean, maybe I could have something like that in the future. And that's a very interesting line. Instead, I played c4, very natural. I see queen on one side, rook on the other. Let's open things up. And c4 is just what I wanted to play. dc, bc, of course. Now I kind of have the hanging pawn structure, but in this time, I'm able to push my pawns, and that's kind of what I like about it. Queen a4, I go rook up to the e2 square, rook e2, defending my rook and just keeping everything together. I didn't want to go this move. I didn't like this move as much because, I mean, first of all, it hangs a pawn, and second of all, like, why would I ever do that in a million years? I didn't really want to defend my rook with my queen because I thought my queen was on a good square. So here, my opponent comes in here with his rook, attacking my pawn. I go here with my queen. I don't really want a queen trade. I could go for this, but I don't like this as much after queen b3. At the very, it's probably just a draw here, and I kind of want to win because I'm playing someone pretty lower than me. So I kind of want to win. So I go queen d3, keeping some pressure on the board. I could have actually played for this move d5, which I saw. I definitely saw this, but I didn't really see what I was doing after like rook c4, queen c4, and takes. I thought that my pawn was a little weak in like all lines, and I didn't really know what I was doing. Maybe I have pressure on these pawns. Maybe that's what the computer says. Maybe I have pressure on this, and I can do some work. I guess also like this pawn is hanging. Not right now because this rook is hanging, but it could be an issue in some lines. Instead, I go queen d3. Brings his other rook to the party. And I think here for like a minute and a half. Because I'm trying to find a way to survive with like some thing with like c5 and d5. And I eventually do play the best move. I play c5. This is the best move. This is like the first line you see. This is not that complicated. But the trick is like understanding what happens after b6. And after b6, my idea, I'm going to play d5 as well, right? And if he takes, I would take the rook. He would probably not take back with the rook because then I get like some... There's actually a tactic here. Computer says there's a tactic here. Oh yeah, just d6 and like this pawn is like almost promoting. Yeah, okay. Okay, that's kind of interesting. But he would probably take back with the pawn, and then he's got some weak pawns. I get a pawn on e6, and I'm doing pretty well. That was my idea, and that's what I had to calculate there. That's what took me so long. My opponent goes rook d8. I go rook c4. That was very natural. I'm hitting the queen. I'm defending my pawn, and I might be able to bring this rook forward as well. Queen there. I go queen to c3. Simply defending my pawn and like unpinning myself. Always a good idea. He was threatening this move and like with like many different pins, and I mean that's not a good thing to allow. So here my opponent goes b6. Okay, I bring my other rook to the file. Now the queen has to go back again, and my pawns are like pretty solid now. And now I've got like good solidity with my pawns, and I decided to solidify the last pawn, which is this move a4. And the idea is I want to move this rook out of the way, and I don't want to lose my pawn in one move. Like I want to go like here or something. It's kind of my big plan. Takes, and my opponent makes a mistake on the next one. My opponent goes rook d1 check. Right, that's a pretty reasonable move. King h2 was almost forced. King f2 I also saw was okay, but I didn't really want to go for it. I thought king h2 was a little more safe. And my opponent decides to go for this, and I'm winning. I'm completely winning here because of rook b8. His idea with this move is he wants to come here and like checkmate me. Come on here. But I think he forgot that even after like fe, which is like a move that keeps everything together, like this, he doesn't have this because my rook always blocks. So this is always okay. And I think that's what he missed. So I go rook b8, check first. I want to get my rook in. I want to move the king out of the way. King has to go here. And I decided to go fe first because I thought that maybe opening up more lines to the king would be interesting, like opening up like some lines. I saw that this was a fork. I did see this was a fork, but remember my rook is also hanging, so I have to be very careful. When it goes here, obviously not want to open up lines to his king, and trying to like go for something like this. And I play this nice move, queen b3. This is like the best way to go for it. This is the only thing that's like +6. Everything else is like +5 and less, but it's obviously all still winning. Actually, queen f3 is a way to play. Like queen f3 hitting both rooks, and if he takes here, actually just queen c6 and he gets like mated, which is nice. But I didn't want to calculate all that, so I played queen b3, threatening some like very nasty discover checks here, and also simply attacking this rook, and I am winning. After this move here, my opponent actually can't do anything. Like if he like moves his rook back like to like d7 or something, simply rook d4. I'm gonna pick up the rook. If I don't pick up the rook, I'm simply gonna mate him, which is very nice. And my opponent decides to go for this check, but then I block with check. This move is forced, which is kind of funny. And my opponent comes here. I take back the rook, and I'm simply up 6 points of material, and there's nothing he can do. Says trade, and just does like a little like funny end move of the game. He loses his queen in one move, which is pretty funny. And yeah, that's game number 1 at a game with 94% accuracy. Very, very nice stuff. I realized that I do not have my clocks for this. I am not going to add those in post. I am just going to try and add them right now. Give me a second. There we go. We should have them now. There we go. Clocks have returned. Apologies for that. I was down 2 minutes this game, most of the game. I thought that I had clocks on. I'm not gonna cut that out. Either way, let's get into game number 2. So here we are in game number 2. And this is the game where I played at 98% accuracy. pretty good game. All things considered, this is a bit of a shorter game than the other because, of course, I mean, when you play like perfectly, you gotta go for a shorter game because there's gonna be inaccuracies the longer the game goes on. And let's just get into it. I play with the white piece again, and we kind of have the same opening. d4, d5, bishop f4. This is the only thing I know how to play. c5, e3, knight c6. This is a bit of a different line. He goes for knight c6 instead of knight f6, but c3, knight f6, and we're basically back at the other game. Like what happened in the other game? We had like this. We have the same position, literally the exact same position as the other game. And I decided to go for knight d2. Same thing. Bishop f5. Is this the same? Is still following the other game? Is still following the other game. Knight gf3, and my opponent here goes e6. In this game, knight gf3 and my opponent went to cd. That's the difference between these two lines. But my opponent goes e6, and I immediately decide to go after his bishop. I decided to go very, very aggressive, and this was on a day where I wasn't feeling very good about my chess. So I was kind of like just really, really trying to make something happen here. So I go with this move knight h4, and I immediately target his knight square bishop, and I want to take it. Like that's my whole idea. I want to take his bishop. If he goes back to g6. I'm just going to take his bishop, and it's all good in the neighborhood. I don't have very much experience playing these types of positions where I go after his bishop very quickly, but I know it's fine. I know it's backed by Stockfish, and I know this is all good. Bishop g6, I take the bishop. This is what you have to do. Everything is pretty much equal. Everything's pretty much the same advantage here. Everything's like plus 0.115, but knight g6 is technically the best move. hg, bishop g3, and I'm just arguing, okay, I have the bishop pair. I simply have the bishop pair. Nothing can be too wrong about that. Bishop d6. I decide here to take on c5, which I thought was smart. I'm not scared of this because at the end of the day, I have this move. And I always thought this was okay. Like if he goes here and tries to like win the pawn back and not allow me to play b4, I thought I was like better after like even castles like g3 here, and like I get some pressure. I might even be able to hold on with knight b3 and like be up a pawn. Anyway, that didn't happen. He decided to just recapture the pawn. He didn't want to do any funny business. All okay. Much of that has been happened before. I go queen b3, targeting this, and of course I asked the mate that he's gonna play queen b6. The reason why I didn't go queen b3 immediately is because like if I went queen b3 here, you normally have like this, not here, but like after like bishop f4 takes, you normally have this, but in this line the difference is that he just wins a pawn here. But I was scared of like some queen b6 and c5. Okay, that's my difference, but whatever. That didn't happen. DC, bishop c5 and queen b3, targeting the pawn. Pawn goes queen b6, of course. Very natural move. Knight f3. All stuff that's been happened before. I'm trying to prevent this move from happening, and I want to put a knight here. That's my whole idea. He goes castles. I also castle. I don't really see any reason not to. And knight back. and he's making himself clear. He wants to play this move e5. At least that's what I thought his idea was. That's what I thought his idea was. So I'm like, okay, he wants to play e5, and he wants to like fork me here. That's his whole plan. I know. Let's stop that. Let's stop that. Let's go e4 ourselves. E4 ourselves. Very nice move. And now if he goes e5, I'm simply going to take on d5. He'll take here. I take here. He takes back with probably the pawn, actually. And I'm just better. I'm just always better here because he has some weak pawns. I'm not going to trade. I mean, I could, but I don't want to trade and like give him these pawns again. And I thought that I was just better here. I thought I was better in this position. So I thought e4 is a very creative move. My opponent goes with this move d5. Very reasonable. I decided to go rook c1 after a bit of thought. I'm actually kind of proud of this move. Just keeping my cool and saying, okay, if you want to open up the position, you want to open up the c-file, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm not scared of this move. This happens in the game. I'm not scared of like this. Here I'm just gonna take this, and if you go for this move, I'm gonna take back with the rook, and now you don't have this. Now you don't have this rook b3. I have pressure. My rook's gotten into the game, and I'm probably just better. I'm probably just better here, which is very, very nice. So I didn't want to. So I knew that he was not going to do that. He instead goes queen b3, a b3, and he decides to go for this move bishop b6, simply moving his bishop out of the line of fire. But I didn't understand why he would do this. I didn't really get this move. I thought that this was like a kind of a waste of tempo. It's the engine's top choice, but sometimes the engine is wrong. Sometimes the engine is wrong, and I don't really understand this move bishop b6. Like, I guess like what else is he supposed to do? Maybe like a5 to prevent b4. Maybe that. That's like an interesting plan. Maybe he wants to like bring his rooks to the center or something like that. I don't know. But I thought bishop b6 was a waste of time. So I go bishop b5 pretty quickly. I'm targeting his knights. If he allows me to take his knight, I'm very happy with that. Very happy with that. I do lose my bishop pair, but in return, I get him to have a terrible pawn structure. Also, I'm simply threatening a pawn after takes and knight takes pawn. So, rook here. Okay, I don't really understand it. I go bishop c6, pawn c6, and I take here. It's a free pawn. Free pawn, right? And I mean, I'm better. But my opponent here decides to go for a tactic. And you know when they decide to go for a tactic, that's kind of the end of the game. Because my opponent goes for bishop d4. And obviously he thought that after knight here and this move, he plays this. He's getting a fork. He's getting the pieces back. After like bishop e3, like this line, he might have something here. That's his idea. But unfortunately, he simply misses that. I move my knight away with an attack. I'm threatening a fork, and he takes my bishop, and I fork him, and my opponent simply resigns out of a game where I played at, this engine is saying 97.9% accuracy against my opponent's 86.4 with a 2600 estimated rating. Very cool. The other game I played at 93.8% accuracy with 2550 estimated rating. So some pretty strong games, and I hope that I can keep it up. Hoping I can keep up my play, and I will reach 2400 soon. That's my goal. I hope I reach 2400 very, very soon. Crossing my fingers. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found this entertaining, instructive, all of the above. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, and do all the normal things YouTubers tell you to do. And yeah, good evening and good night.